We've come out on location today to one of Addison's subdivisions of long standing north of Lake Street and east of Addison Road. We're talking with Rick Federighi, Addison's Public Works Director. Rick, there's some construction equipment and barricades and all sorts of things that are staged just down here at the end of Oak Street. Can you tell us about the project that is being planned that will dramatically impact the subdivision where we're speaking today?
Sure, be happy to. Glad to be with you today, Don. Yeah, this project's been in design for quite some time. As you mentioned, it's one of the oldest areas, actually the first subdivision that was built in Addison, just north of Lake Street. So all of the utilities, all the infrastructure is approximately 100 years old. So it's certainly time to do that, those types of upgrades. It was time for the streets to be redone. So the village was able to take advantage of an opportunity for a federal grant, which is covering the total cost of the project, which is coming in just under $5 million. So that's great for the residents of Addison, that there's no additional cost to them for this project. So it is beginning here at the dead end of Oak Street. We're just outside of the Park District property in the Sled Hill, for those that are familiar with the area. The first couple connections are going to be to Salt Creek for storm sewers and also sanitary sewers. So that's really a big part of this project, is doing a sewer separation project.
Can you talk about what that means? We talked a combined sewer. That sounds like a problem. So why is that a problem?
Yes.
What's being done to fix that?
Yeah, originally a lot of the older developments, certainly here, most of Chicago, was built with combined sewers, which means that both the waste from your home, from washing and cleaning and bathrooms and showers, would go into the same sewer as all of the street gutters and storm sewers. So it was one single combined system. So of course that can bring issues when there's heavy rains. There can be some backup and things like that. So the more modern way to do it is to have totally separate sewers. So we're removing the combined sewer, the single sewer, and then putting in two sewers. We're putting in a separate storm sewer and then a separate sanitary sewer for all the homes and businesses in the area.
Okay, so that takes care of the sewer. So then they will have the very common curbs with the storm sewer drains like other subdivisions have in the community, right?
Regular curb inlets, and there'll be even more spread out throughout the town to make sure it all gets into the new system.
Are combined sewers problematic when you get heavy rains?
Yes, they can be, and in fact, in some of the large areas like Chicago, or some of our surrounding communities that are a little bit older, like Joliet, Aurora, that have a lot of combined areas, it can be very difficult to deal with it. What that can lead to is, in very heavy rain events, we need to bypass the treatment plant. Now, luckily, here in Addison, we haven't had to do that for many, many years, but it can be an issue that you have to deal with. In fact, in Chicago, because of their combined system, the cost to separate would be so high, they've gone to the approach of building, of course, what many people know is the Deep Tunnel Project, where then they can capture the rain mixed with sanitary water.
Yeah, okay, so that takes care of the sewer part of the project. Talk about the water project then, the water main part.
So actually then all the water mains in this area are also around 100 years old. Wow. Knock on wood, they've been very good to this point. Things were well built.
They're pretty durable.
Back in the day. But it is time to replace this entire water system. There are also some areas that have lead joints, and there are also some older services to homes that contain lead piping. Now, while we test for lead and there's been no lead tested or ever found in this area, we want to just do the proactive thing, get these things out. In fact, they're removing lead services throughout our area and the rest of the country. So we are fortunate to put some of this money towards lead service removals and getting rid of those lead joints at the old water main intersections.
Was the ability to mitigate those lead connections helpful in getting the grant money that helped funded the project then?
Yes, because they did want the money to go towards infrastructure, and it's been really a high priority for the federal government, the state government, to start getting these lead services and lead pipes out of the systems across the state.
But I think you mentioned it's probably bears repeating. You test for that on a regular basis. Your environmental department.
We do,
correct.
Correct. Our water division takes about 30 samples a month. Specifically for lead in different places throughout the community. Right.
So what is this project going to mean to the residents then? Accessibility of the road, accessibility of their driveways. What can they expect coming up now in the coming weeks?
Sure. We did send out a mailer to our residents quite a while back, notifying them of the work that's being done here. The goal is at the end of each day is to wrap up, have the roads open, at least have gravel down. As you can see behind me where they're set up, where they've shut down for the day, there's some areas that are plated so we're able to drive across those, and everyone should have access throughout. Sometimes it may be down to one lane, so we do ask for people to be very cautious as the work site moves through this neighborhood.
Will water be shut off during the day?
So water will only be shut off when we are doing the connections, the service connections. So those will be coordinated in advance. We have staff out here that will meet with the residents, give them a heads up when they know they will be without water while those connections are made. But again, water and sewer services, our hope is that they are connected each evening before they can before they can move on to the next area.
Sure.
One more thing about accessibility. The only time people will have an issue is when we do have it set up and ready to pour cement for curbs or sidewalks or aprons. That takes some time to build, and then a couple days, of course, to cure. So that is a time when the residents are inconvenienced. They have to park out on the street for up to a week while that's cured.
The roads then, that's the other part of this project. Once all the underground is done, you're getting new roads in this area then.
Correct.
Too.
The last piece is going to be to all new roads and curbs throughout the whole area here. As I mentioned, it was really due for this. We actually held off a couple years from doing the roads because we knew that this big project was coming. So of course we wanted to time this all together. So yes, it will have all new streetscape, new ADA, a lot of new sidewalk. Not all sidewalks. If sidewalks are good in some areas, we're gonna keep those and maintain them where we can, but mostly all new aprons and curb.
When you talked about the new storm sewers coming in, is that kind of a good thing? Because now with roads being built, you can make sure that it's constructed in a way that it gets the water off the streets so it doesn't pond, especially in the winter months, and become an ice problem and gets into the storm sewers then?
Yes.
So is this sort of a benefit in disguise, kind of, to say, you know what, at least we can build it to today's standards of drainage in an area?
Yes, and of course when you build today compared to 100 years ago, there's a lot more things to consider. We have some higher rainfall that we have to deal with, so it will be designed, and that's what's great about redoing the whole area, is that we can make sure that this drainage is improved upon. We'll put larger pipes underground, so there's a lot of storage here, and eventually, just like where the old one went, it'll eventually end up in Salt Creek. This also takes a lot of that burden then off of our Anthony J. LaRocca wastewater treatment facility. That's where this actually goes to right now as a combined system. So with those separate, all of that rainwater then will not have to be handled at the wastewater treatment plant and mixed with other sanitary waste.
And processing, which costs money to do something like that.
So there will be a lot less in processing costs. Correct.
Right. Okay, so what's the schedule now? Work is underway. A lot of the staging is happening. As you said, they're actually working a little farther, I think, to the east right now, but they are going to be coming westward then. So what's the schedule? We're in the middle part of August right now. What do you see going forward as far as the timeline?
Yes, so like you said, we are pretty much moving from east to west because those connections had to be made first at Salt Creek and then working west. They will work now right up until winter as long as the weather holds out. We have it set up though in 4 different phases, and then the work will take up again in the spring. So they'll have everything wrapped up. We need to have some pavement down obviously for plowing and for safety for over the winter, but we're hoping for good weather through most of December. We've been pretty fortunate the last few years, but then it will shut down a couple months and then restart, and then final project is supposed to be completed in October of 24.
24, so a little more than a year's time.
Yes.
Okay. Is that challenging to do it over, a season? I mean, you're kind of overlapping by a year there, so does it get a little more difficult? Because you got winter to deal with, like you said.
It can be, because like I mentioned, we do want to get pavement down and some other things wrapped up. We also have to match up old pavement with new pavement, which is going to be a couple inches higher. So when they do stop, it'll look a little funny at first to see just a portion of the neighborhood, 100% completed. But that's the best way to do it as we creep along, is to do all the water, both sewers, curbs, sidewalks, and get everything ready. The only thing they may also come back in next spring and do in all the areas is another mill and overlay to get one solid flat level then throughout the neighborhood.
Now, will there be a project manager on site during the construction in case somebody has an issue that they could reach out to or contact, or what's the best way to do that in case there's an issue that comes up?
Yes, there is a full-time a consultant that's here with our engineering firm. They are here every day. His information was given to all the residents, a phone number, cell number, and then in addition my information. So you can certainly always call Public Works and we'll take care of any kind of issues, and there always are when there's construction, but we'll make sure that we address those right away. What's great is having someone here all the time. They can interact directly with the residents. They like to stop by and maybe ask a question, or certainly as they get closer to each of the homes, they can knock on doors and give them a heads up, hey, we're going to be here next week. just be ready. We're going to be moving through. It'll take a couple days.
Okay.
So it'd be help to coordinate that. So that's great that we have a full-time person.
So it's a big infrastructure project here in the subdivision north of Lake Street and east of Addison Road, one of Addison's oldest subdivisions, and some pretty well-built water mains and sewer lines that are about to get replaced and reconnected. So a lot of work taking place in this subdivision here in Addison. So Rick, thank you very much for talking with us today, and we'll keep the residents informed on the project as much as we can.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.